Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your latest instalment of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, hosted by myself, Craig Ray, the independent Rangers podcast made for fans, by fans, and all of our content is absolutely free. You can get us over at gersnet.co.uk, where we've got the forum, some great articles, and a wonderful history archive as well. Please do like, comment on the pod. Please do share it with all your friends as well. We're going out live on YouTube tonight, but we'll be available soon on all of our usual podcast providers as well. And just before I introduce my guest for this evening, I need to give a shout out to our sponsors over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company, and they've been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for many years. We're absolutely delighted that they're backing our podcast. You can get them over at forrestprecisioneng.com, and you can also visit the Forrest Precision Executive Lounge, a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stand. For information on how to book this unique and intimate space, you can email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Here to introduce my guest tonight, Mr. Stewart Weir. Stewart, do you just want to talk about the Super Bowl?
I could talk about the Super Bowl, Plymouth Argyle, the rugby today, cricket yesterday, whatever you want. It would make better listening than actually me having a rant about Rangers.
Yeah, we normally send out an agenda for the show beforehand, just to let the guests know what we might discuss and this, that, and the next thing, and try and have an orderly queue. But like we said earlier tonight, there's no point because it's like what can you say? You can't really say anything, can you?
Well, listen, we better say something, or the next 40 minutes are going to be quite boring.
I know. We'll start with the team then, I suppose, Stuart. The manager made a couple of changes for the game last week. Bailey Rice came in. Fernandez started as well at centre-back. First half, though, pretty flat. I mean, the whole game was pretty flat, obviously, but we're trying to be a wee bit level-headed here. I was thinking it's amazing in terms of the midfield how slow we look without Nico Raskin there. And I'm not saying that he should have started today, because I understand before the game you're playing a lower league team. But he did sort of up the tempo a wee bit in the second half, but that's maybe the only thing close to pass marks today, if even that. But to be honest, it's one episode after another. We've had a few decent results lately, but I said to Frankie before we came on that, you know, you're always one result away here for going back to the get him out Sharon chance, and that's what we got today.
I have to say the decent results were laboured. There were some turgid performances in there, and I think yet again, under Philippe Clement's stewardship, Rangers have managed to paper over cracks, but it doesn't take much to blow a couple of holes in the paper again and reveal the cracks. And today was such a day. You're talking about the team and the changes that were made. I really don't know or don't think it would have mattered how many changes that were made. On the pitch, you're looking at senior players, and even those senior players, you're just looking for somebody to have a bit of commitment and a bit of leadership and a bit of drive about them. You're playing against a team that's mid-table in the Championship. That's the second tier of Scottish football for anyone that needs to go and look where Queen's Park actually are. They've lost 10 league matches this season. You know, so somebody's worked out how to play against Queen's Park, which was more than the manager or the coaches or any of the players on the pitch today actually managed to do. It was a dire performance, and I think today's performance, more than anything, showed up just what a gutless bunch Rangers actually have in their ranks just now or in their midst. There was nobody there rolling up his sleeves and getting stuck in. Nobody trying to make a cup tie of it. And the most disappointing thing is probably tonight, and I probably speak for a few people, is that we're not really disappointed in that end result. It was almost something we saw coming. It was almost something, it was always just over the horizon, around the next corner. And lo and behold, it happens. It's the first time that Rangers have ever lost a Scottish Cup tie at Ibrox to a team outside their division. Let's just comprehend that. And that is where Rangers are at just now. So people can make excuses. You can start wherever you want. You start the manager with the team. Not impressed with the team at all. They look laboured. For want of a better word, they look clueless. They do not. There's nobody in that team can work out where the weak point is in a team, or how to pull them onto you, or how to get behind them or through them. And Rangers are going nowhere very, very slowly. They're not going nowhere fast because they keep getting these wee runs of 3 and 4, 5 wins against, lesser opposition, and suddenly come up against a game like this that they have to win if they want to finish their season with any kind of silverware and blow it big time.
Yeah. I think one of the worst parts about that game, though, is that obviously you've mentioned the start there about the first time I've lost a home Scottish Cup tie to a team in a lesser division than us, but I do understand that in football you do get games where, maybe you absolutely batter the opposition for 90 minutes and you miss chance after chance and then they pop up with a lucky goal. One of the worst parts of it today is Queen's Park absolutely deserved that victory.
Yeah.
They were set up properly, they worked their socks off, and see, to be quite honest, somebody made a point earlier, Callum Davidson, he's a decent manager. He's obviously won a couple of cups with St Johnstone. He set up a team right today. And the thing with Clement in Scotland anyway is that this is just another example of another Scottish manager that he's came up against that's just set his team up in a decent way, and another guy that's got one over him in Scotland as well. We can all talk about the European results until the cows come home. See, with Rangers in Europe, unless we're winning the trophy at the end of it, I'm not really that bothered. Do you know what I mean? For me, that's the only time that you get excited by it. Top 8 of the Europa League. I don't care if you're getting knocked out by Queen's Park this Sunday in the Scottish Cup.
Yeah, I've seen, and I've said it myself, and I've said it in Talk Sport and various other places. Rangers seem to have an ease of playing in European competition because teams open up against them and want to try and win the match themselves. Rangers are not geared up to break teams down. They just are not they can't break teams down. They don't have the wide players to do it. They don't have the guile or the vision or the scope in midfield with the attacking midfielders, guys running into, running in behind attackers or attackers running beyond defenders. They just don't have that. And you end up with a result like today. And the other thing you said there about Scottish managers, Philippe Clement seems to be totally oblivious to the fact that there are actually managers out there who are quite good. Whether he's overlooking the fact that it looks at the league table, that's a good team, or that's not such a good team. He's overlooking the fact that there are teams out there who are managed by guys who know the Scottish game inside out, and they certainly know what it means to come to Ibrox and frustrate the team, and therefore frustrate the crowd who gets on the team's back and take advantage of that. And and today was a prime example. You're right. He won a couple of trophies at St Johnstone, something that doesn't come easily to any.
Well, not even to Rangers recently winning trophies. So never mind St Johnstone.
You said that I could only speculate on that one, to be honest. But you're right. I mean, St Johnstone have a better track record in winning consecutive trophies than Rangers do, and that tells you everything. And I just thought the manager with his head in his hands and the dramatics and having a rant now and again at the fourth official, that doesn't look good. It's almost like you could replace him, or he could have replaced Mark Warburton or somebody like that. He's going through the exact same, if you like, death throes of what Warburton went through, except he's still in a job. Amazingly, he's still in a job, despite this being one of the worst results in the history of Rangers. What you said there, Rangers have lost games, teams have lost games. Rangers lost to Hamilton Accies, back in 1987 and battered Hamilton Accies and lost to a goal. Dave McKellar played such an outstanding game, ended up at Ibrox as the backup goalkeeper. So it does happen. Rangers just didn't show any of that commitment or any of that passion today. And you do wonder what's going on in the training ground, what is going on in the dressing room, and what is going on in the WhatsApp chats amongst the players.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I'm someone that has stuck up for the manager quite a bit, even through the tough times. But I was saying earlier, there's a certain level that you just can't do things. Do you know what I mean? Like, you cannot, as a Rangers manager, lose at home to a lower league team. You just can't do that. And the players and the manager did say today that the result was unacceptable. But then a minute later, he's coming out giving comments saying that he's not going to leave, and he also doesn't even expect to be called into a board meeting to discuss the result. So then, how does that become unacceptable if there's no consequences to the result? If you know what I mean.
Because Rangers as a football club just now is being built or rebuilt on the premise of mediocrity is okay.
Yeah.
When you're hearing managers and people within the club coming out and saying we want to be challenging, no, Rangers fans expect their team to win. And I would imagine there's one or two players have signed up for Rangers that expect Rangers to be winning as well. If that's not there, you become second best, and you would become second best by a distance. The Rangers that has had the success against the best teams in the country, be it Celtic when they were dominant, be it Aberdeen when they were a very dominant club, regardless of who it is, even going back further than that, when you had Dundee and Hibs and Hearts all being really good clubs during the 60s. The fact of the matter is that Rangers always strive to be better than them. And that just isn't, it's almost like if you can match these teams, we're doing well. You're not doing well. You're basically accepting that second best on occasions is actually quite good. And also Clement, he is labouring the point about, every team gets injuries. It happens. Occupational hazard. You play a game where a ball's kicked around and often players get kicked as well. These things happen. But to start coming out and talking about transfer budgets and transfer windows and how much Rangers have to spend and all the rest of it, Rangers should not only be spending more than some other clubs, they should always also be at the front of the queue to sign certain players. And that just isn't there. The lure of coming to Rangers just isn't what it used to be. And, Philippe Clement can make all the excuses that he wants. And he's coming up with some crackers, I have to say. But he is the guy who picks the team. He's the guy that has to instill the winning mentality in that team. And he's failing on that front.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I did find it quite ironic that he was bringing up budgets today, playing a second division team. I was actually half expecting him to say that, Queen's Park have actually had a bit of a financial takeover the last couple of years. They built that stand at Lesser Hampden. So, they were always due a result against us or something like that. It's just nonsense. It's, as you said, Stuart, it's excuses. And that's
I'm waiting for somebody to come out and say, actually, after the Old Firm, Queen's Park have won the Scottish Cup more than anybody. So they're a big team. They were still playing. They were winning the Scottish Cup in black and white when Queen Victoria was still on the throne. Let's get that one that right as well. But Philippe Clement wasn't dealt the best hand, but he's made it worse because he's actually picked up some jokers along the way and thought they were actually face cards. You know what I mean? And he's trying to play them and fool people into almost like, I know what I'm doing here. He's now at press conferences talking in complete and utter riddles, and he's not convincing anybody of that. But above him, there's a tier of senior management and those running the club who gave him free rein, so to speak. He's obviously been in the know that, I'm not going to get sacked, and I'm here for the long term. This week, in the past week, there's evidence of that. He's brought in a coach on a 3-year contract. Guys that are
ridiculous.
Guys that are jumping about on a trapdoor don't make people their next signing in the coaching side and give him a 3-year contract. That is utterly ludicrous. He should have been at best employed as a coach until the end of the season to find out where Rangers are going to go after that. And, you know, we're back to the Clement getting an extension in his contract. Why? Somebody believes somebody that there was a queue forming, you know, outside Ibrox to take their manager away because he was well thought of in Europe. Utter bollocks. That was never happening. And you know, and now we've got a guy, Patrick Stewart has come in, and Patrick Stewart at the start of January said they were going to commission somebody to do a root and branch review of everything in and around Rangers. Why bring somebody in to do that? You, in your capacity as chief executive, should be the guy doing that. Why? Because you're as well placed as anybody, because you're just in the door. You don't have any favourites. You don't have anybody that you can say, oh, I think he's doing a good job, because you're not supposed to know. So for me, and for him to say, oh, I'm going to take a counsel from elsewhere, or maybe 6 to 12 weeks process, but the results have to improve as well when we're doing this. But for him to then pass that on to somebody else is dereliction of duty in my eyes. You're the fresh pair of eyes. You come in, you make the decisions. Because if you're still sitting there putting that, like wearing some other office or organisation like a bulletproof vest, and then pointing the finger and blame at them, saying, oh, they come up with that decision, it's nothing to do with me. That's cowardice. Absolute cowardice. You should be taking these decisions, and you should have taken them quickly. And the fact that Rangers are now going to end this season without a trophy, there are miracles out there. Rangers winning a European competition isn't one of them for me in the next 6 months. So Rangers are going through a season. Have your end of season dance later on tonight or tomorrow, because that's what it's going to be. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that people have bought season tickets, Ibrox is going to be a ghost town for coming weeks, because there's done absolutely nothing to play for. So all of this is all tied in to the infrastructure within Rangers and the decision makers at the highest level not making proper decisions and allowing somebody else just to drift. And that's all Philip Clement is doing just now, is drifting out to sea, and maybe he will disappear over the horizon even though he doesn't see it coming. But Rangers, this has been a dreadful season, a dreadful campaign. And you know, you can say, you know, look at the European results. But listen, that's painting.
Nobody cares about that, Stuart. But like, see when you've not won the league for what's going to be now 4 years. Nobody cares if you get to the last 16 or even a quarter final of a European competition. The only way that, you know, European competition can be used as some sort of leverage over having a poor domestic season is if you go and win the bloody thing. And I don't even mean getting to the final. Because, you know, but what I think that the run to Seville a couple of years ago, I don't, you know, I'm raging because we get beaten in the final and we also lost the league. Do you know what I mean? So even though we had great nights and all that, that's fine, but it resulted in nothing.
You did have you did win the Scottish Cup that week, which is a competition you won't be winning this year. Let's just say that again. So all in all, you have to look at it hugely unsatisfactory, and I think, you know, some people even now, some people are actually looking at it through the bluest of blue tinted glasses. I don't see how they can look at that. I don't see any positives whatsoever. I don't see there being 1, 2, 3, 4 players that are coming through that the guys aged 18, 19, 20 that could carry the club for the next 3 or 4 years. I don't see any coming through that you might sell and make 25 million quid out of them, like you could do a couple of seasons ago with Patterson and Bassey and the likes, and then they probably go and squander that money as well on some of the tripe you're now watching. So all in all, it's disheartening. And the reason it's disheartening is because I think most people have actually got the T-shirt or the DVD and have seen this movie before.
Yep, and we know the ending. It's a culture of mediocrity, sure, that we've been sort of dealt with the last few years. I think certainly since Gerrard left, and it's almost as if this board, or certainly the previous board, maybe the new one as well, they've just conditioned us into thinking that we finish second and they're happy to finish second. One last thing about the manager, and I know this phrase gets used a lot, but I just don't think he gets it. I don't think he understands what Rangers is all about. One big moment for me today in that press conference, he dropped an F-bomb, maybe trying to make himself sound, as if he cared and was emotional and stuff like that. But he dropped an F-bomb. Do you know what he done straight away? He apologised. He said, "I'm really sorry for saying that." He never apologised once to the fans for losing to a lower league team. And that
back in the day before they allowed anybody into press conferences, trust me, there were Rangers managers that let F-bombs, B-bombs, C-bombs. If Soonest cranked up, everybody sat back in their seats, and wondered then what next was going to be happening. I don't find Philip Clement that threatening. If Walter Smith opened up, you sat and you listened because you knew at some point in time you'd to have a one-to-one with him, and he would tell you exactly what he thought of you again. And you're right. The phrase you used there, Craig, I think is all important. And this just doesn't apply to the manager. It applies to a whole bunch of people masquerading as Rangers players. They just don't get it.
Yeah.
They just don't get it. Whereas in the past, and times change, and, I might be described or considered a dinosaur. These Rangers players don't walk down the street now or walk to their houses or go to school with their kids and get double twin barrels off of people telling them exactly what they think of them and their team and them as players. They don't get that anymore. They live in their wee compounds and behind big fences and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and then they start crying when someone calls them shite on Twitter after they've actually been shite.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They're a protected species.
Yeah.
And they don't get it. They don't get it what it is to play for Rangers. A couple of weeks ago, I had a bit of a kind of spat on Twitter when I made mention of Neil Murray and was told he was shite. Yeah, that's why he won a treble with Rangers and scored the opening goal in a Scottish Cup final. That's how shite he was. And that's why Walter Smith played him for like 20-odd games consecutively in the 92-93 season, which goes down in history as one of Rangers' most successful ever season. Go and look up the records, and if you don't look them up yourself, get somebody to read them to you. And then you're told, I bet some of the players in today's team, they could have won medals playing beside Laudrup and all these guys. No, they couldn't. No. Today was a prime example of them not getting it, not having the mentality, not playing and going the extra yard for Rangers. They just don't get it. All they want is a big paycheck every fortnight, go to a fancy restaurant and then drive out the car park at Ibrox or at the training ground with and the latest G-Wagon or the latest Bentley. They just do not get it. And it was like, and again, I made reference ages ago about that Rangers team, 92, 93, when they all drove around in Honda Accords. Oh, what you're saying is if they drive the same car, they'll be a better team. Not what I'm saying at all. They were all in it together. Nobody was different. Haley had a Porsche. Haley had a big fancy Mercedes down in Helensburgh that he could have brought into training. No, they all drove Hondas because they were all in it together and they were all one and they were all the same. There was no Flash Harrys, even though they could have been. Why? Because they were winning. Now you've got people getting, mediocre players thinking that they're possible Ballon d'Or winners. They're not even the front door winners at Ibrox, never known Ballon d'Or winners. And they just don't get it. That phrase that you used, the manager doesn't get it, and the players certainly don't get it. They don't know what it's like to play for Rangers, and they certainly, very few of them know what it's like to be successful at Rangers, and that is worrying.
Well, aye, that is incredibly worrying. And you've made a couple of good points there, Stuart. I mean, at the end of the day, what repercussions are the players and the managers going to get here? I mean, the manager may or may not be sacked. We'll see in the next couple of days. I doubt it, but we'll see. But the players, They've still got their big contracts. They're still on 25, 30 grand a week. As you say, they're being shielded. You know, they don't need to go and speak to the media. They're actually told nowadays to not go and speak to the media. They're protected. They're in a bubble. Whereas the Rangers fans, the normal punters, they're the ones that you need to go to school, you need to go to work, you need to deal with them from the other side of the city, gloating and rubbing it in your face, which, you know, no wonder they would do it. But it's the supporters that need to put up with it on a daily basis. It was the players that used to put up with it on a daily basis, but as you say, they're now protected. We seen at the start of the week a couple of players on Sunday after the last game going away for a couple of days on holiday and stuff like that. The manager, I take a couple of days off training and whatnot. It's only Queen's Park. It's only Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup. And that's another thing, sure. How many times has the manager this season spoke about the sort of European hangover? You know, we're having to play a game at 12 o'clock after a game on a Thursday. We had one full week to prepare for this game against a lower division team in Scotland. And not only the result was an abomination, but the performance as well. There's just no way to excuse it whatsoever, despite him trying to do it all the time.
I joked today on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it that maybe Rangers should play every day, and that way they wouldn't forget what they did yesterday. You know, because you're right. You have the manager, and again, this is him making the excuse. It's difficult to come back from European games and then play literally within a matter of hours later. Well, you didn't have that excuse this week. So you can't use, you're a bit of a hypocrite, actually. You can't use that excuse 1 week and then have a whole week to prepare for a cup tie against a team mid-table in the division below you and not get it right. You know, so it for me anyway, I just think he thinks he's on borrowed time, but doesn't want to admit it because somebody upstairs saying, no, we're sticking with you.
Yeah.
You know, and that whole part of it is something that I don't really get. There'd be managers shown the door far quicker and far sooner for far less failure than what he has been. Look how many points Rangers are behind in the league. Look what happened in the League Cup final. Yeah, you put in a good shift, but that was all you did. Did you come out as winners? No. You know, and as Bill Shankly famously said, you know, show me a good loser and I'll show you a loser. He's absolutely spot on. And that's where Rangers are at just now. You don't get prizes or presentations or garlands or anything like that for being a good loser. It's better than actually being a horrible
you probably do nowadays at Rangers because there seems to be garlands every week.
Right, I knew probably a new contract or a testimonial or something like that for not doing your day job. But I mean, Rangers. This is. I saw Rangers when John Gregg was a manager, and even John Gregg was managing to pick up League Cups and Scottish Cups. Okay, wasn't he cutting it in in the league? And Rangers had some not bad performances in Europe. You know, you think back to beating the likes of Juventus and things like that. Yeah, so you can get the sort of anomalies of not being good in the league and winning in Europe. But for the life of me, I just have not been able to pinpoint or work out or put down in paper what Rangers' strategy is, what their game plan is, or how they decide they're going to actually beat certain teams. There is just nothing there. And I've heard it said maybe because I was involved on a daily basis with Rangers, you get to know teams and you got to see them against different teams and all the rest of it. And people will refer back, Walter Smith, he played 4-4-2. No, he didn't. He played umpteen different formations. You just didn't notice it because Rangers were on the front foot all the time. And that's how we're winning games. Rangers played 93 Cup final. McCoist wasn't there, so they could have played 4-4-2. So they played 4-4-1-1, and they played Durant right behind Haley. So there were tactical moves afoot, even away back then, that were quite subtle, but were hugely successful. I just don't see any of that happening within Rangers just now. It's almost like it's predictable, and if it's predictable for me or people watching the stands, it's bound to be predictable for other managers who are then going to try and beat Rangers, and so that was the case today.
It certainly was. I'm kind of sick of talking about this manager and the players and stuff like that. So we might as well just avert our frustrations to them up above us. I said in the group chat earlier that I think we'll know in the next day or two if Patrick Stewart's his own man or if he's a puppet for the Parks, which has been levelled at him since he's came in. I think this is his first opportunity to make a big decision. I take it you're looking at some of the comments on YouTube.
Well, I'm looking at one or two of the comments, and you know something, and this might just be how people are feeling. Other nights, guys have come back at me, and I've said certain things, and they've come back and they've disagreed. Worryingly, and I would have to say worryingly as a club, there's actually people agreeing with me or augmenting what I've said, or actually going even more two-footed than what I have done. And that just shows you how sick, fed up fans are. And, and Rangers over, a dozen seasons have used their fan base as one big cash cow. And they've got the money. They've got the money off the fans in season tickets and in sales for all sorts of things. And they've just blown it. They've just squandered it. And I think fans genuinely are now starting to wake up to the fact that they're the one. It's not the big shareholders that are putting the money in. It's them that's putting the money in, and they're not getting value for money. They're not getting satisfaction guaranteed in any way, shape, or form. And I think one or two of them are really sick about that.
Well, that's the thing. The board do like to use the fans as customers, but then again, you need to remember if you're customers of something and you're unhappy about what you've purchased, you do have legal rights to get your money back. But it just
is there a complaints department at Ibrox? I missed it. I'm not. It's okay. It's okay. People going to press conferences and voice their concerns. And well done the guys that actually, today.
There were a couple of good questions today.
I asked Clement if he was fearful of losing his job. But again, you're sitting looking at a guy there who almost is oblivious to the kind of pressures or oblivious to how he's being viewed elsewhere. Sitting there like in splendid isolation saying, no, I'm not frightened at all because I spoke to the board and the board are pretty happy. You really wonder how low the bar can go before this board actually reacts or responds to where Rangers Football Club are currently.
Yeah, well, I think deleted the right word to use. I mean, people did say that Clement was the best manager since Walter Smith just over a year ago when he came in and had his initial bounce, but I don't think it's a Walter Smith. I think it's maybe Walter Mitty that he's more akin to at the moment, where he's just completely and utterly deluded about, and quite fanciful, to be quite honest, about how he's viewed. But then again, at the same time, is he only going off what he's been told from his bosses and above him? Because that's what it seems like. It seems as if this guy is knowing that he's basically not going to get sacked. And let's be honest, right? You could be the hardest worker, have the best mentality in the world, right? See if your boss comes up to you and basically says, for the next year, you're not going to get sacked regardless of what happens. Everyone would be corrupted by that, and it gives you an excuse straight away to say, I can do whatever I want. And I think that's what it seems like here. Touched on the board, I mean, Fraser Thornton's came in as the chairman, Patrick Stewart as the CEO. You do want to try and give these guys a chance. But as I say, we're now in a position where they have got a big decision to make. I know Fraser Thornton's been brought in to previous companies before, right as a big takeover's been about to happen. People that I know and that I've been told that apparently we are looking to sell the club, but they're just looking for a wee bit too much money, the Parks. And I said the question earlier, Stuart, is Patrick Stewart his own man, or is he just going to be a pivot for the Parks? In your heart of hearts, what do you think is the answer to that?
I don't have a heart of hearts. Um, I look at it sort of in the kind of cold light of day. Again, I make reference to what I said right at the outset about Patrick Stewart. He was a fresh pair of eyes and wasn't willing to make a decision.
Yeah.
So is he taking? Is he recognising forces from elsewhere so he doesn't do that? Is it kicking the can further down the road to let's see what happens? Because I'll tell you one thing, they kicked the can down the road and a big bus ran over it today. They don't have a can anymore. There's nothing left to kick. The season's over for Rangers. And I know people say, oh, there's a chance in Europe and all this. Really, you're not turning up at Hampden to win a Scottish Cup, or you failed in a League Cup, and you're certainly not getting a presentation at Ibrox with a league title. So don't kid yourself on. I think he could have, if he had been his own man, I think he might have taken the decision weeks ago. And it makes me feel as if it's like we can't afford to get rid of this manager. We can't afford to go chase another manager. We'd be bringing in a guy, any manager that came in would be coming in with one hand and one leg tied behind his back because he's having to work with these players that we've got already, and we don't have any money to bring anybody else in. And I think the festering, the rot within Rangers, spreads from the bottom and works up. And I think there's some really dubious decisions being made at board level, and there has been for some considerable length of time. Another thing, as you're saying there about the chairman coming in, I mean, he must know that he was second choice anyway.
Well, aye. After we couldn't get the guy that ran like the smallest charity in Paisley.
Well, that's by the by. But
by the way, he's actually looking quite clever now. That guy.
Well,
he's looking quite clever.
I've heard that before. In all seriousness, and this goes back again to what we've been talking about. Rangers are no longer best in class in anything.
No,
they are taking like other folks' hand-me-downs. They're taking other people that are the second taxi off the rank just because they need somebody in those positions, and that mediocrity spreads because immediately you've got somebody then working with somebody else and thinking, well, you weren't the first choice. So you can't be that good if you weren't the first choice. You won't get that job because there was never anybody else left. And you're right, the mindset is totally canted and tilted then as to, well, get the head down and see what you can do, rather than taking people's heads off and getting the job done so it has to become better.
Yeah. For me, the executive of the club the last few years, it just seems like egos. And, even guys like Dave King, ego, Douglas Park, ego, they've all got their own individual egos. They're all thinking about themselves and their own legacy. I think you've got here guys that have obviously been successful in their own business world, but they just don't know how to run a football club properly and efficiently. And this is the first time that we have supposedly went out and independently appointed people, if you believe that or not, but that's what we're told. So it just seems to me like these guys, their heads are in the sand. They think they are the right people to take the club forward, and they're not. Now, I think, to be fair, at the time when these guys took over, it is what the club needed. We needed a bit of stability. We needed guys in that were Rangers fans that knew the club because of the rot that we were in before. But their job, in my view, in terms of the club history, was to take us back to a point where they got us through the leagues and then maybe back to our first league title. That's great, but that doesn't mean to say that you are the right people to take Rangers forward into what should have been a new era of dominance in Scotland, which is what should have happened after we won the league. And Steven Gerrard, he made the statement a couple of years ago. He was absolutely right about, fixing the roof whilst the sun was shining. We've never done that. It's almost as if after we won that league, we went, we're fine. Everything's fine. We're back. This, that, and the next thing. That's not how it works at Rangers. There is no such thing as a one-off, or there shouldn't be anyway. You win
Well,
the
there
league.
was
Aye,
actually,
well, there was.
actually,
But you
there
win the
was.
league. But you win the league. You win the league. You celebrate that night, and then the next day you're back at it again for the next season. Alec Ferguson said it. I think Man U won the Champions League in 2008 against Chelsea. After winning it, he went, "If none of you are prepared to go out and win this again next year, leave, because you're no Man United class." And that's exactly what seems to have happened at Rangers.
What happened at Rangers when Steven Gerrard led Rangers to the league title was they did not concentrate on what they were going to do the following season.
Mm-hmm.
In effect, Rangers bought themselves 8 seasons of grace because they knew that Celtic weren't going to go for 9 in a row or 10 in a row again for another 8 years. And that's what you're seeing. That's what you're seeing just now. It's almost like as long as we can stop and trip them up somewhere down the line, then we don't need to spend the money we really should be spending if we want to be winners. And we'll still just take the money off the punters, and we'll still get shirt sponsors, and people still getting by the new kits and all the rest of it. And that's where they're at. You're right about the sun shining and fixing the roof, except Rangers basically just decided they were going to live in a cabriolet for the next 5 or 6 years and no bother about roofs. In fact, don't even bother about whether the sun's coming out, because we're just going to live it up here till we've stopped Celtic winning 10 in a row.
Well, never mind roofs. You couldn't even fix a section of the Copeland stand on time and to budget as well. So never mind with bloody roofs. But it's the same nonsense every year. And to be quite honest, as a fan that goes to every home game, goes to any away game that you can actually get a ticket for through MyJers, goes to Hampden, goes to European away games, has bought the stupid added on nonsense, the Rangers toasters to get yourself an extra 20 MyJers points. We're sick of it. The fans are sick of it. And look, you seen it today. I'd say there was maybe 25,000 there if you were lucky. And a lot of fans, they would have sold a lot more tickets because the fans feel as though they're being, held to ransom, because if you don't buy tickets for the games against Queen's Park or Fraserburgh, then you don't get to go to the semi-finals and the finals. Not that that's going to matter this year anyway, but fans almost feel now, with the way that the manager scheme is structured, that if you stop going, then you're just going to be penalised straight away.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe why the crowds haven't dwindled as much as people think, because at the end of the day, people still want tickets for Man U away. You've got the Celtic game coming up next month at Parkhead, where there might be an away allocation. People want tickets for that as well. So,
and how much does it cost you to be part of the MyJers group? 50 quid?
40 a year. Aye.
40 quid. How many people are in that?
I think about 60 plus thousand at least.
60,000
at least.
So do the maths. 60,000 at 40 quid is 2.4 million.
Yeah, but we do get a free scarf at the start of every season. So
whoop do. Party hats and streamers for when you win a cup final, except you don't get the cup final, so we'll keep them for a few years. Del Boy and Rodney will be around the doors trying to hawk them to folk. Don't worry. No, it's the fans are a big cash cow, and to be honest, it's going to be really interesting between now and the end of the season to find out how many fans actually turn up. I remember when it was like, John Gregg and disillusionment with Jock Wallace, who, basically had a team fighting on the pitch as well. But he actually turned up knowing how Rangers were going to play and what you might get out of them. But now, why would you turn up to turn on the TV and listen to Philippe Clement come out with the same lame excuses that we've got injuries, we don't have as much money as other clubs in the transfer market? I mean, that baloney was put to bed today. When you
can't, but that's the thing. I said it earlier. He actually had the gall to mention that today. He was saying something about, basically when I come blah blah, the budget and stuff like that. You cannot use that word after Queen's Park have just beaten you at Ibrox in the cup.
Let's play a game of top trumps here, right? Top trumps. How many Scottish Cups have you won? Oh, look at that. Queen's Park are the third best in Scotland with 10.
Yeah.
10. What's the next best thing that Queen's Park have got? Oh, well, they had Hampden for all those years. And what's the next best after that? An away kit sponsored by Iron Brew. I'm just looking at your tracksuit there and thinking the same thing. Anyway, but the fact of the matter is that there is no Queen's Park, unless you go back 150 years, are not even on the same page as Rangers. They should not be on the same page, let alone beating them 1-0 in a Scottish Cup tie.
I know. Well, their kits are also manufactured by Adidas, which gets you thinking, why can we not have a decent one like that? Even the Trump is on that one.
It's not.
Trump is on that one.
You can buy kits sort of made to measure off the shelf, and you pay for them. It's not a sponsorship deal. Let me introduce you to the world of commercialism.
Oh, well, speaking of commercialism, I probably won't be going to the Queen's Cafe for a while anyway. I think they'll be on my ban list. But as you say, Stuart, the fans are being. It just seems as if they're being taken for mugs, and I don't like the whole infighting thing as well, where this whole happy clapper versus very angry bear, whatever it is you want to say. It's like, I think as fans we're all sick of it, and it's hard not to argue with certain people that you think might not be on your same wavelength, but I think the anger really should be directed to those at the top of the club. Yeah, the manager's awful.
Somebody comment there. The free scarf is to pull over your eyes. I mean, okay, maybe if that wasn't as funny, it would be, you'd be shedding tears about it. But again, I come back to some of the comments, and a lot of the comments are that people are disappointed in this result. They're not gutted and devastated because they could actually see it was something that could happen. And that tells you everything about the state of the team and the state of the team under the managership and stewardship of Philippe Clement.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the manager then, I think it's quite obvious that, nobody wants him to remain here. Do you get any names in mind about who you would like to take over, if anyone?
If I'm on a commission basis, if somebody at Rangers contacts me, I'll give them a dossier, but until then, no.
I know, that's the thing as well. I mean, some people have mentioned, I mentioned them earlier, Steven Gerrard has just left his club in Saudi. I mean, do you put two and two together?
Well, you can put two and two together, and I think you'll come up with the answer of, those bastards let me down the last time, why should I go back?
I said this earlier, we could go and try and get Gerrard, but then what reasonable manager would actually want to come to Rangers just now? We are at the point where, like, seriously, what half-decent manager would look at us and say, aye, I'll take that job? You might get a manager that comes in and thinks he can take us for the ride, but...
But you're really looking, are you looking at a half-decent manager, or are you looking at somebody just getting all the deck chairs pointing in the same direction, showing a bit of resilience and a bit of organisation, and doing it his way, but doing it in such a way that it fits in with the players that are available to him? I still think Clement is trying to play a game where he doesn't have the players. He just doesn't have the players.
I also think as well, Stuart, that look, I don't think he's a bad manager, believe it or not, right? But what he's trying to do is not suited for Rangers in Scottish football.
No.
It's suited for a European game. And that's fine for the European games, but at the end of the day, your bread and butter, Rangers fans want to win the league. They need to win the league, especially when Celtic have done it now for so long. Rangers fans crave domestic success now. So that is what we now need to aim for. This whole having runs in Europe, as I say, unless you're lifting up that trophy in May in Europe, I don't care.
But again, the whole thing with Rangers fans and the runs in Europe, yeah, it's good, but Rangers are no Sevilla.
Yeah,
you're not turning up and winning the Europa League every other year. You're not getting into the Champions League by winning the Europa League. That just isn't there. So don't kid yourselves. This is basically the hundreds and thousands in the candy poured on top of your cake. That's all it is. You want to actually have something worthwhile in terms of the cake, and Rangers are just living off crumbs just now.
No, absolutely. But we need to look at the positives. I mean, at least I'm not going to have to.
tomorrow is Monday,
Oh,
and then the day
Christ.
after that is Tuesday.
Oh, God. No, I mean, I hate Tuesdays more than I hate Mondays, because I think with Monday you expect it and you get used to it, but then Tuesday comes, you're like, oh, no. But I mean, look, positives are we're not going to have to fork out all that stupid money for trips to Hampden that we're not going to get. And also, we probably had the highest viewership on the show this season. So,
Well,
you need to look at
that's down to you and your bright colours there. Looking, and I doubt if it's me actually in my rugby shirt tonight, so it must be down to your fashion sense.
Aye, I'm a dedicated follower. Do you want to say anything else, Stuart? I mean, the floor is yours just before we wrap up, but aye.
Good luck to the Kansas City Chiefs, and good night.
Yes, enjoy the Super Bowl, everyone. I don't know who's on next week. You know, we're playing Hearts at Tynecastle. Yeah, we'll deal with it when it comes to it on Friday, guys. Thanks for joining us, Stuart. It's been a pleasure as always, mate.
All right, good to see you.
You as well, mate, and thanks to the viewers at home. Good night, guys. Bye bye.